The Super Speedway Podcast is a Dream Bigger media production. For news, photos, show notes, and information about advertising on the podcast, visit www.thesuperspeedway.com.
3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Super Speedway.
Welcome to episode 86 of the Super Speedway Podcast, recorded Thursday, November 8th, 2018. I'm your host, Eric Young, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, James Cush. James, how is it going today?
We nailed the intro this week.
We did.
Well, you nailed the intro this week. So
I didn't do anything different other than I'm using the new iPad right now, so I guess the old iPad was messing up. This one's kind of I got it. Okay, we're already going off on a tangent. So I got a new, and I'm doing quotes, new iPad because it's not the new iPad. But I got a new iPad that has actual memory in it, so I'm not out of space. So I run the sound off of this app, and the app resets itself all the time every week on my old iPad because it would run out of memory and then delete everything out of it. This one actually retains everything. It's kind of nice, so pretty neat.
So that is what would you call that? Like behind the curtain look at podcast production?
Little inside baseball type of thing. Yeah. If you want to know, the soundboard app that I use is pretty awesome. It's called iJingle, and it is great. I love it. And now it just disappeared off my screen, so I better go back and find it.
And just like that.
Yeah, just like this. You just hit a button and it's right there for you. Even though I don't use it that much, but it's there.
Well, you never know when we're going to need to do the drop or the slide job.
Right, exactly. Or maybe something disappointing happens, like this weekend at Texas for Kevin Harvick, and you get
the whole. Exactly.
There you go. All right. So it was the AAA Texas 500 Texas Motor Speedway this weekend. Let's get right into it, James, because Kevin Harvick dominated the sucker. He led a ton of laps. He won both stages, and then got the race win. Qualifies for Homestead. But, well, let me do it again.
We're like morning radio now.
Oh, yeah. So Kevin Harvick gets himself a penalty. Let's go through this here. Basically, illegal alterations to the rear spoiler. And we're going to get a little bit more into that in a second because we were originally going to record the podcast yesterday. We put the notes together yesterday, and then a little bit more news broke last night after we decided to push back to today. So basically, his win will not qualify him for the Final Four, so he still has to race to get into Miami. He was docked 40 points. Crew chief Rodney Childers and car chief Robert Smith both suspended for the last two races of the season, and Childers was fined $75,000. It moved Harvick from a guaranteed spot in the Final Four to just 3 points ahead of the cut line going into Phoenix, which fortunately for Harvick is one of his better tracks. So who knows? This could all be moot. But before we talk about it, James, last night, Scott Miller, Senior Vice President of Competition for NASCAR, held a phone conference with the media to explain what it was. I cut a little bit out of that here, so here is what Scott Miller had to say last night.
All right, as everybody knows, we issued a penalty for the 4-car today, and in the penalty notice, which I'm sure you all got, it was it was spelled out that the splitter or the spoiler did not meet the CAD file. The spoiler is a piece that is bought by the teams from a single source supplier. It has a part number from Richardson. It has a CAD file that calls out the profile of the spoiler and the overall shape and where all the mounting holes are in the spoiler. This particular spoiler did not conform to the CAD file, and there's two things that when you're talking about a spoiler that contribute to improved aerodynamic performance, and that would be the height of the spoiler. That was correct on this one, and it would be the offset of the spoiler in relationship to the center line of the car. This one was moved to the right, and getting the spoiler further to the right, actually, when the car goes into the corner and sees yaw, that puts more air on the spoiler, and that's definitely aerodynamic performance. So we found this back at the R&D center when we matched up the spoiler to the CAD file, which basically is just a stock part that every team can buy, and it didn't match up. So that's what put us where we are today.
When you say it did not conform to the CAD file, a lot of people in the industry are saying that they made their own spoiler. Is that what you're saying?
So the fact that whether they made their own or they modified the stock piece is kind of irrelevant in this case, because it didn't match up to the CAD file. We believe this to be a manufactured part, but that's a separate manufactured part by them. But like I said, if they would have modified a standard one, the penalty is the same. I mean, it's that has to be a spec part, and it wasn't. Whether it was modified or remade kind of is inconsequential in this case.
So there was a lot more in the conference last night. Again, it was about 22 minutes long. I think it was the full recording that I pulled off the NASCAR media site today. But they went into a lot of discussion over, discussing what the actual penalty would have been, whether it was an L1 or an L2, whether they should have taken more points away from Harvick, and talked about some other things, which we'll get into here in a minute. But let's talk about the penalty first, James. I yesterday was annoyed with this because it's one of those things that, again, it's a high profile team getting caught, essentially bending the rules in the last couple of races of the season and racing for a championship. But after hearing him talk last night and the discussion about this wasn't just a part that they manipulated a little bit, or so they basically built a new spoiler to put on the car that didn't conform to the rules, which in itself, even if they built a spoiler that was exactly the same, is illegal. So this wasn't bending the rules. This was cheating, what Harvick's team did this year. It changes my opinion on it and definitely makes me much more annoyed over this penalty, or over what the team did to get this penalty. I don't know what your thoughts are. So what do you got to say on it?
Well, I mean, they deserve to get dinged as hard as they can, and the L1's definitely the harshest penalty that they can get. So yes,
right.
Deserved. I'm glad that they got hammered for it.
Yeah.
Because they should have. However, my thought is on this: why in the heck do we have a laser inspected pre-race inspection process,
right,
if we're not going to catch stuff like this beforehand?
Well, and that was the talk here is, he was asked about the spoiler and if they normally check the spoiler, and basically it came down to, we don't normally pay real close attention to it because it's something, they run it through the templates, but it's something that's purchased by the teams from one supplier. It's kind of difficult for them to cheat with it. But now they're going to be checking them. He said they're going to be pulling all the spoilers off the cars, and now the inspection process is going to take longer. But come on, why weren't they doing this already?
Wasn't that difficult to cheat off of it, because they've been doing it.
Right. Who knows how long?
And my thing is, I still say that they should have got dinged for this penalty. But if they're not checking for something, and that's a gray area, then shoot.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, I'm kind of mixed on this.
You almost can't blame them for it, because it's like, well, they're not checking it for pre-race inspection. Why would they check it any other time?
I get that these teams are doing this, and that if you don't do it, somebody else is doing it. The problem that I have is they're giving the sport such a black eye in a time that the sport doesn't need a black eye. I mean, these rules are so ridiculous to begin with, and then they still have to push it, and they still have to ruin these things. And it's like, at some point, it's time for these guys to just do what's best for the sport and stop with this crap. And, I think the only way that that's going to work is NASCAR is going to have to up these penalties. I forget who it was today. I don't think it was Dave Moody. I forget who it was, though. Suggested that what they do, maybe it was Dave, suggested that one of the options is, first, this week, they earn this many points. Take those points away. They get nothing out of this week. And guess what? Next week in their racing, they can show up to the track. They can do their thing. They can qualify. They can run their race. They can race for the win. But they don't get any points next week either. And I'll tell you what, when they do that, these teams are going to stop doing that, because it's not going to be worth it for them to cheat anymore.
Well,
Now, that's
they're
pretty
always gonna
harsh,
find a
but-
way. I feel like they're always gonna find a way.
I think they'll stop pushing the issue if they're losing 2 weeks worth of points in a championship battle. I mean, and again, and it goes back to, for one, you don't see the smaller teams doing this stuff because they can't afford to do it.
Yep.
Now, the other thing is, and I don't have the list in front of me, but the way I understand it is they took back, 3 cars to the R&D center this week, and all 3 came back with penalties.
Yep.
So, I mean, you can't take every car back to the R&D center, but I don't know. I'm tired of this stuff. Harvick's team has been notorious for it. This is not the first time this has happened. Last year was Windowgate, wasn't it?
No, this year is Windowgate. It was early this year.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm tired of the Harvick thing. I saw a lot of talk today that, Jimmy Johnson and Chad Knaus used to do this stuff all the time, and nobody hated them for it, blah, blah, blah. No, people did hate him for it, too. Yeah. And, it definitely...
If you think they ain't trying stuff now, you're mistaken.
Exactly. But I don't know. I'm tired of this stuff, and the only thing I'm more tired of is finding out about it Wednesday. And I know you and I agree 100% on this. It is time. I don't care. I understand the NASCAR officials work all day long. They work all weekend. So have another team that comes in race night and tears these cars down on Sunday night, gets the answer on Sunday night, and tells us before the next day whether that car was legal or not. They're going to do it at Homestead. They can do it every week. It's ridiculous.
Yep. We need to know. I mean, we had so much good. It's just, I don't want to get on a soapbox about this. Every time we get something good in NASCAR, we take 2 to 10 steps backwards with something stupid.
Yep.
Like earlier this year, we had Chase Elliott win a race for the first time, and we had Brian France happen.
Yep.
And now we've got Kevin Harvick, and we have this great story, this kid, and Rodney Childers is posting pictures of the kid too, and it was just a great moment, a cool moment. You and I were probably going to talk about it, and now we have no reason to talk about it because it's almost like it didn't happen because we have to deal with these stupid freaking penalties every couple of weeks.
Yeah, one of 2 things needs to happen. NASCAR either needs to open the rule book up and let these guys do this stuff, or they need to come down more harsh than they are, and get them to stop doing it.
Yep. Well, this is, to be fair, this is a pretty harsh punishment for Kevin Harvick. But
it is. And this could very well cost him a championship. And not only could it cost him a championship, it could certainly cost him a chance to race for a championship.
Yeah, I think this is going to cost him a championship.
I think it will too.
Yeah, I mean, I know Rodney Childers is suspended and whatnot, and Tony Gibson's going to be on the box, but he's not Rodney. And how much control Rodney has from wherever he's going to be telephoning in from, during the race and whatnot. I don't know. I don't know what's gonna happen, but
I think Harvick's had some pretty couple good weeks on pit road. He would have been much happier being comfortable this week going into this race and not have to worry about that speeding penalty or the stupid mistake on pit road costing him a chance at racing at Homestead. So one mistake and he's done this weekend. I mean, Kurt Busch is right there.
Yep, and Chase Elliott, he could sneak in there or somebody. We could have a scenario where no Stewart-Haas cars make it to Homestead.
Yeah, wouldn't that be something? Can you imagine? We were talking a couple weeks ago about, is it possible that all 4 could make it? And now it could be none of them might make it.
Yeah, and it's funny too because that would be the ultimate penalty, really. Yeah. For what they've been busted with, and I don't want to say shame on them for doing it either, because like you said, Eric, all these teams are doing something.
Yeah,
but
the problem
3 cars
is
went R&D and 3 cars came back failed.
All it takes is one example to get everybody to stop it, though. I mean, NASCAR can't do something that's not in the rule book. But I'll tell you what, if they came out and said, okay, Harvick was caught blatantly cheating, this is ridiculous, he's not going to get to race for a championship at Homestead. If they just said that right now, I guarantee you everybody knock it off. Yeah. They're not going to take that risk.
Right, absolutely. And it's not like NASCAR can suspend teams from races.
Right.
There's so much sponsorship, implications with all of this.
Right.
And you can't just tell a team to stay home either.
Right.
Or tell a driver to stay home.
And I guess I say that they can't do it because it's not in the rule book, but I mean, I think we can remember a certain year in the playoffs or the chase where we completely rewrote the chase and ran 13 cars instead of 12 because of a rule violation. So NASCAR can do whatever they want to do. They'll look pretty foolish doing it, but they can do it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I don't know. I think it's time, and it sounds like Scott Miller talked a little bit about it, and he said there's a lot more to it than just DQing somebody or whatever. But it sounds like there's a lot more stuff on the table, and they're going to continue to crack down on these things, and they're going to continue amping the penalty up until I think it has an effect. So I would be very surprised not to see an announcement before the start of next season that there's going to be another level of penalty for something like this. And NASCAR is going to try and get it under control as best they can.
We've had way too many penalties this year.
Yeah,
a lot. I mean, we've had a lot of penalties.
But it's been a couple nice weeks of not having to deal with it.
I mean, and it shouldn't. You shouldn't have a penalty like this. Just completely. It's a black mark on the entire playoff race now.
Yeah, it is. It is completely.
Yeah, we should have been talking about Kevin Harvick being as dominant as he was all season, going into Homestead. That should have been a storyline all its own, and now we don't know what that storyline is going to end up being. But
yeah, I mean, I guess I give a little bit of applause to Harvick's team for making this championship a little bit more interesting once again. Cause
yeah, no kidding.
With him being locked in, it was pretty much back to Harvick's probably going to win this thing, and it'll be over
now
with.
It's interesting. Phoenix is definitely, or ISM Raceway, I guess we'll call it, is definitely going to be more interesting this week.
Yeah, so I will be very interested to see how it goes, but. I have a feeling Harvick's going to come back and win the thing, and
he could
pat the spoiler and say "F you, NASCAR." And
and you and I were texting, and you said, "Man, I hope he misses it," and I said the exact opposite. I go, "Man, I hope he goes to Phoenix and sticks it in everybody's face."
Are you still of that mindset?
That would be. What's that?
Are you still of that mindset with the?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. I think.
I want even more the other direction. I really want him to lose this championship as a result of this.
Yeah, I like to go the other way on stuff like that, just because I think it makes me and the NASCAR fan base, the overall population, we don't get along as much
right.
as well. So yeah, that would be my way to go. Harvick's gonna get hammered for this by the fans too.
Oh, yeah.
They'll let him know. If he misses it or if he makes it, they're gonna let him know.
He's gonna get some booze this weekend when he gets introduced, I bet.
But I tell you what, though, if he goes out there and earns it clean from here on out, so he's served his penalty, and if he wins Phoenix and wins Homestead and he does it clean, what are you supposed to say?
It's no different than when Kyle Busch missed the first quarter of the season and won a championship.
Yeah, he's within the rules.
Yeah, he's within the rules and he served his penalty, and
that's right.
If he wins it, he wins it. But he's gonna have to try a little harder now.
Yep, and Tony Gibson on the box does not give me much confidence. But,
right.
Yeah. What's that saying? Not an old saying, but it's called wins above replacement.
Yeah.
So if Rodney Childers is like an A+ crew chief and his replacement is Tony Gibson, I don't know where that letter grade comes out. Tony's a great guy and he's had some success, but Rodney Childers is one of the best. So that's going to be tough.
Right.
And you got to replace a car chief too. I mean, that's your two leaders on your pit crew,
Right. Yeah, that's a big deal. I think that's a bigger penalty than I mean, I guess it's equal to losing the playoff berth, or the lock in, because the points don't mean anything. I mean, they do because they put him back further, but it's that lock in that really hurts.
Well, I think Harvick should also be kind of counting his blessings too, that they didn't take all 60 points away from the race, because I think they can only max take away 40 under the L1.
Right.
So Harvick was
40
able
is
to
the
keep
max.
It. So just a strange rule that could come back to save him is that he was able to keep his stage points.
Yeah.
He got 2 10-point stages and keeps them.
Yeah.
So that's pretty interesting. If he makes the cut, by however 9 points or whatever, that's going to matter, and people are going to be ticked about that too. So
right.
Yeah, there's so many different layers of this, Eric. I don't know. I don't know how far we could take this, but
I'm just tired of it. I'm so tired of talking about penalties.
I know it sucks. And then we didn't even talk about the race. And there's not a whole lot to talk about. It was Texas.
Yeah.
It was long.
Yeah, that race really needs to be a 400-miler. 500 miles is just too long on that track.
Jeff Gluck said 300, and I was like, yeah, you're probably right.
Well, honestly, I mean, you know my opinion on it. I don't think we should have a race over 300 miles, except for the Daytona 500, the Southern 500, and the Coke 600. Let's leave those ones alone. Run everything at 300 miles or less.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
I mean, even sitting in Michigan for 400 miles after that 300 miles, it's like, yeah, we could be done. You know,
Yeah.
I
Oh,
didn't
yeah.
feel like in June this year when we got rained out just a little past halfway. I didn't feel like I was too shortchanged in that race.
Right.
You know, so. But yeah, I mean, I think we need to look at that. But who knows? 2020, maybe that'll be a time for that too. Shorten some races up. But yeah, I don't know what else really to talk about the race. You know, Clint Boyer made his day pretty difficult right off the start.
Yeah,
Him
I
and
was
Denny
listening
Hamlin
on the
getting
radio
together.
on that one. Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah. Truex has the loose wheel and then speeds on pit road. Continues to kind of implode. Basically, Harvick helped him get into the final four this week, but
Yeah, pretty much locks him in.
Yeah.
No, not really, but
he's pretty.
Yeah.
He's close.
you know,
But-
Truex broke the greatest streak I think in NASCAR history
What was that?
this week. He finally scored a natural top 10. He had 19 top 5s and 19 top 10s, and now he has with his ninth place finish, he finally broke the streak and finished inside the top 10, not being in the top 5.
That's interesting.
What a fantastic stat that was.
Yeah, that is pretty
Wow.
pretty fantastic.
I've never seen a driver that accumulated so many top 5s without actually getting another top 10.
Right.
It's incredible.
Yeah. So Truex is let's look at the points. Joey Logano is locked in as we know with the win. Kyle Busch 28 to the good. Martin Truex Jr. is third, 25 to the good. We mentioned Kevin Harvick, he's fourth, +3. Kurt Busch hanging there, -3 at fifth place. Chase Elliott -17 in sixth place. Eric Almirola -35 in seventh place. Clint Boyer -51 in eighth. Clint obviously is a must win. Eric Almirola pretty much a must win. Chase could points his way in, but he's going to have to run pretty well to do that. So,
Yep.
But Kurt Busch could sneak in there, could knock the old teammate out. Be interesting
Yeah.
to see.
Yeah, if any one of those three guys has trouble, they're pretty much out of it because
Yeah.
Kurt's going to be right there. So
Yeah, I mean, even Kyle Busch at 28 to the good
Yep,
is
he's not safe.
He's not
Yep.
safe by any means.
nope, Kurt Busch goes out and wins 2 stages. That's 20 points right there. So
Yeah,
yeah, Kyle's going to have to just be smart.
yeah, and Kyle's not
All
far
day.
enough ahead of Truex, to be able to
Yep.
be comfortable either. So
Exactly. Yeah, it's going to be dicey.
lots could happen there. And then shoot, where was I going? I don't remember where I was going. I
Well,
don't know.
usually with the points, we like to cross people off.
Yeah.
So last week
that's
we already.
that's what I was gonna do. I was gonna mention. Sorry to cut you off.
Oh yeah, you're fine.
Clint Boyer, if he gets into the final four, he will not win the championship, and the
No.
reason is the freaking mistakes on pit road. So Clint
Oh,
Boyer is the only guy in the world to get a too many or over the wall too soon penalty on pit road when you're just refueling the freaking car because one of the guys is sitting on the pit wall with his feet on pit road. Come
incredible penalty.
on, man.
Yeah, if his feet would have been, I was reading, if his feet would have been dangling and not touching pit road, he wouldn't have gotten the penalty.
Right.
All he had to do was lift his feet up.
It's
Isn't that
ridiculous.
Yeah, that was a stupid
Guy's
mistake.
just chilling there. Like, no
That's just a
biggie.
bonehead move of the week.
Huh,
Gee.
I tell you. So, yeah,
Yeah.
Clint ain't going to do it. So, yeah, let's cross some people off. I think we can cross Clint off. He's not.
So, yeah, Clint and Eric are the two.
Yeah,
Eric
there's no
sucks.
way either of them gets in.
No. I actually like Chase Elliott's chances. We'll probably talk about this later, but I think he's 17 points out is a pretty good spot for him.
Yeah.
I think he can make something happen there.
Yeah,
I
I'm
mean,
pretty comfortable with that.
Yeah, it's in his hands, really. He can, if he goes out there and has a really strong race, and he could,
Yeah.
he could make this thing happen.
Yeah. I mean, last
I
year's a
wouldn't
good
be opposed to
indication. He was real close to transferring last year with a win.
Yep, go get it, man. He's won on all these weird tracks this year too, so
Yep.
go out there and get it.
There you go. Anything else to talk about with the race, James? Anything else we want to hit on?
Not really. We're gonna talk about we're gonna talk about one next, but
Yeah.
That's pretty much it from Texas.
There you go. Let's take the Do We Care topic this week. So Eric Almirola is a little mad at Joey Logano.
Oh boy.
Didn't like how Joey raced him during the Texas race. Complained about it on the radio and then proceeded to complain about it after the race as well to the media. And Kelly Crandall wrote an excellent piece this week, spectacular. James drew my attention to it on racer.com. The link is in the show notes. If you go to thesuperspeedway.com, check out the show notes, and the link will be in there. The piece is called "Shut Up and Drive Your Race Car," which is the greatest title of any article ever in the history of the world. And I'll tell you what, it's an excellent piece where she basically says that these guys are racing. You're supposed to race each other, and to complain about somebody racing you is freaking ridiculous. I don't know where this happened, where this began, that everybody's got to let everybody go. It's stupid. I mean, do you agree, James?
No, it's the same thing. You and I talked about this last week with Truex.
Right.
Truex had an issue getting basically NASCAR raced at
Right.
Martinsville. I'm like, well, you're racing on a short track in NASCAR. You're going to get bumped, bud. It's, for the win.
These guys have
And-
fenders on the cars. They're designed to bump.
And what Eric Almirola is upset about is way more egregious than even Truex. I can see Truex getting mad because that's short track racing.
Yeah,
Guys
he got
get
bumped
mad.
out of the way.
Yeah, and I crushed Truex last week, and
Right.
I understand. But Eric Almirola deserves to be crushed even harder
Yeah.
because my God, what a baby! He's being a baby.
Right.
And my favorite quote from him was, "He's already locked in. He can give me some room." Dude, you're competing not only for the race, you're
Right.
competing for the championship against this guy. Of course doesn't want you to win.
And it's Joey Logano. He just knocked the other guy out of the way to win the race the weekend before. He's not going to let you go.
No,
Come on.
what is Joey supposed to do? And Joey, honest to God, Eric, I don't think Joey did anything wrong.
No, I don't
He
think so
was
either.
Racing, I think Eric lost control of his car.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Ugh.
agree. I agree. Completely agree.
Is it just because it's Joey Logano that these drivers are getting so mad?
I don't know,
Nobody
but I
likes-
like Joey
nobody likes-
Logano every week more than people are mad at him. Like him a little
hope
bit
he-
more.
I hope he wins the championship.
So, I mean, okay, so Almirola had nothing to complain about. Somebody who may have had something to complain about is, I don't know if you watched the Xfinity race, but Cole Custer, Tyler Reddick battling for the
that
win.
was so good.
They
that was such a
slam
great
into
race.
each other on the backstretch. I could see one of those guys being mad. That was a pretty good hit. Both
Yeah.
of them, no problem. That's racing. It happens.
Yeah.
Like, quit
What
being
a great
baby.
race that was.
Quit being
What a great
baby.
race that Xfinity race was. We should just at least acknowledge that,
Well,
that was a great finish.
I do want to hit on both the other races because we locked some more guys in there too. Cole Custer locks himself in to race for the championship in the Xfinity Series. This is a guy that James and I have both ripped on pretty good as not being a driver that we really think is worth much.
He won Homestead last year. so
Yeah,
could-
he dominated
win the-
Homestead. I mean, he didn't win Homestead, James. He was the
Yeah.
only guy there last year.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, he made that race stink last year.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, heck, Cole Custer could be an Xfinity Series champion, and we might be looking a whole lot differently at the Stuart Haas camp and whether Cole Custer deserves a chance in the Cup Series. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I think I understand that this format's a little bit easier for Xfinity drivers to get a championship because they're not racing against Cup guys for points. But an Xfinity Series championship means something regardless of the format.
Yep.
And
it does.
if he's got a championship, I think he deserves to have a shot at running with the big boys. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
I wanted to hit on the truck race too because I don't know if I can feel worse for any driver in NASCAR than Todd Gilliland.
Oh,
I mean, how many races has he been leading and gonna win, and something happens and he loses the race?
yeah. I don't.
So
I
it
mean-
was on the last lap, wasn't it, that he ran out of gas?
Yeah, it was right near the end. Yeah.
Going down the
It got-
backstretch, he runs
Yeah,
out of
down
gas.
the backstretch, coming off a 2.
And
Yeah.
like, man, and
Yeah,
Justin Haley sneaks
know.
by and gets the win.
And speaking of, another great young driver, because Todd Gilliland's a great young talent.
Yeah.
But Christopher Bell in the Xfinity race too,
Mm-hmm.
he's in trouble.
Yeah. Oh,
He's in
yeah.
trouble for the championship.
Yeah. This is the guy that should. I mean, he set a record this year in the Xfinity Series. He should be a shoe-in for a chance at the championship, and he may not make it.
Yeah, he's gonna get the William. Remember what was the year William Byron didn't get to run for the Truck Series title?
That was
a couple years ago.
2 years ago. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that's what's gonna end up happening to Christopher Bell. He's gonna miss this thing.
Yep.
And yeah, Todd Gilliland's been running so darn good in the Truck Series,
Poor
and
kid.
yeah, it's more bad luck.
And he's so disappointed. But Todd, you're a great driver. You're gonna get
Yeah.
some wins. Don't worry about it. It's coming. It's coming for you.
Yeah,
man.
he's run really well. He ended up with a 4th place finish anyway. So
Yeah, the only concern that I'd have for Todd is that, the Truck Series, we don't have multi-year contracts, things like that. You never know what his contract situation is if he gets a shot the next year. But I think somebody picks him up. If somebody puts him in his car, he's going to win some races for him. So,
yeah, absolutely.
kid's good. So
Yep.
I guess back to the do we care? My answer is I don't care that Eric Almirola is mad at Joey Logano. I care about
Yeah, I
Kelly
don't care.
Crandall's article though, because that's freaking awesome.
Yeah, kudos to Kelly Crandall. Bad Eric Almirola.
Yeah.
Shame on you.
Definitely.
Come on, man, just race.
Just
And
shut up and drive your race car.
Yeah, and just to put a exclamation point on this, Kyle Petty did his thing with Tony Stewart this week, that Coffee with Kyle series on NBC.
Which I've never watched, by the way, because I cannot stand Kyle Petty.
I know Kyle. Well, he's actually not bad in this, and
Okay.
I can't stand him either. But it was smoke, and I had to watch. And man, it just made me miss that guy even more, because we got Crybaby Eric Almirola, Crybaby Truex, and Smoke's out there telling stories about the way it was, and missed it. Anyway,
I'd rather watch Jimmy Spencer and his old Race Hub days with his ridiculous character over watching Kyle Petty. God, I don't know. Kyle Petty just
worse than Jimmy Spencer.
What's that?
Kyle Petty is worse than Jimmy Spencer.
In my opinion.
Yeah, he's pretty bad.
Kyle I don't know what it is about Kyle, but he just rubs me in the wrong way, man. And there's a lot of people that agree with me. I give Kyle credit. He sticks to his guns. He doesn't bend. He has his opinions, and he's paid to be an opinionated person. He does a good job at it. He definitely riles people up, which I think he's paid to do as well. But he drives me crazy.
Me
now,
too.
that being said, if I had a chance to meet Kyle Petty, I would shake his hand and say, "Hey, Kyle, how's it going?" So,
right?
Maybe I'm a hypocrite.
That's okay.
Let's talk about some news, James. I guess we'll stick with Texas a little bit longer. Jimmy Johnson gets a penalty on Sunday, has to go to the rear, but shouldn't have gone to the rear because he only failed tech twice instead of 3 times, right? Is that correct? Twice instead of 3?
Right. Yep.
So NASCAR admits they screwed up, made a mistake. Sorry, basically, and there's not really much they can do about it now. I would argue that it doesn't. I mean, this could have been a do we care, because it didn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. Jimmy got back up to 23rd, where he was supposed to start pretty quick, and was basically a non-factor all day anyway. So,
this was kind of the biggest story of the week at that point, because of the fact that NASCAR admitted they were wrong about something.
Yeah.
When has that happened?
Right. And
when has NASCAR said, "Hey guys, our bad"? They don't usually do that.
Right. And there were a lot of people saying that, well, Jimmy needs to get some sort of something this week as a credit to it, blah, blah, blah. No, that's not how this works. I mean, if you watch football, they blow the freaking, touchdown call, or they call somebody, out of bounds when they're not, or vice versa. They don't reverse the call. They don't give the team some credit the next week. It's just it's a call.
Go back. Yep.
Right. They screwed up. Right. Now, on the other hand, I was listening to Larry McReynolds, and Larry said that he doesn't know what Chad Knaus was doing, but if it was him in that situation, he said he'd have been standing on pit road, and they wouldn't have been able to start the race until they took care of the situation, because he'd have been throwing such a fit.
Yeah.
And I definitely agree with that, but I have a feeling Chad probably figured what they got anyway, so...
Yeah,
let's just get this season over with, man. And
Chad's on to the next job at this point. He's probably mailed it in.
Yeah, let's just move on to the next thing, and we'll do the same. Gateway Motorsports Park announces it's making some adjustments, updates to the track. Not really big, gigantic news. The only reason I included it in here is because we've been talking about Gateway as a potential Cup Series race, maybe in 2020 or beyond. But they're redoing some seats that make it easier to understand the color coding as far as where reserve seats and general admission seats and stuff are, et cetera, et cetera. That's about it. Not a huge deal, but it's another example of a track updating and trying to get things right, and that's just bodes well for their future in the series.
That's right. Absolutely. Yeah, like you said, we've been talking about it, and hopefully they get a date, because I think that would be a great track.
Yeah,
great track.
I would love to see the Cup cars. I would love to see the current Cup package at Gateway with the horsepower they have. When they take the horsepower away, it might not be as exciting, but I don't know. The truck series is good there, and I think that's what we're going to get is, basically a truck series with the Cup cars. Yeah. So they'll be good there. So,
right on. Yep.
Where did I see? Where's IndyCar going? IndyCar is going to Circuit of the Americas next year.
Yeah, I saw them testing. Yeah,
which is interesting, because the whole argument of NASCAR, the reason they can't go to Circuit of the Americas is because of the Texas Motor Speedway. Is IndyCar not running at Texas Motor Speedway next year?
I think IndyCar probably looks for any good dates that they can get, because their schedule is so short.
I mean, and I realize that IndyCar draws a lot smaller crowd, but I would think they would be more concerned than about eating into one market for another market. So I don't know,
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting that we can't run NASCAR at Circuit of the Americas because of the markets being too close, but we can run IndyCar when the market
Right.
when they're smaller.
I guess if IndyCar's just adding a second date, then that's probably not that big of a deal.
I don't know.
NASCAR would have to add a third date, which definitely saturates the market even more. Yeah,
I don't
mean, it doesn't.
think NASCAR at Circuit of the Americas would be that great anyway.
No.
I don't personally think that track is a good design for a stock car.
Yeah. Kind of
Personally.
like Indianapolis. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is a Formula One track, and a Formula One track's not going to run NASCAR very well.
No, not at all.
It's
No.
too sharp of turns. It's designed to slow the cars down, and you don't need. I mean, I don't think you need that for Cup. You'd have to simplify that course a lot. They'd have to build some new sections to make it work.
Yeah, I mean, they had to simplify the Roval. They had a big sweeping turn before they entered the oval turn 1, and they took that out because it's like, why do we? It's just going to take these cars way too long to get around this track. So,
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
A little bit of silly season news this week. Nothing major, just little stuff, right?
Little stuff.
Jamie McMurray, Adam Stern basically tweeting out that Jamie McMurray is likely to run the Daytona 500 for Chip Ganassi Racing. Ganassi made that offer, basically that he's out at the end of the season, but he'd field the car for him in the 500. And it's looking like McMurray's leaning that direction. I know that one of the things he was offered also is some sort of ownership or management stake in the company. So it'll be interesting to see if Jamie goes that route or goes somewhere else. But looks like he'll be running the 500 at least. So
Good. I'm glad that Jamie will get to, kind of go out. I don't know if it's on his terms or not, but
right.
he gets to, he's a Daytona 500 champion. That's kind of the one thing that he's won some big races. But it's probably the biggest race he's ever won. So he gets to go out there one more time.
Yep.
So that's kind of cool.
Yep. Pretty neat. Really
But
small. Go ahead.
Who's in the one car? Who's in the one car again?
I don't know. We don't know yet.
Kurt Busch.
We don't know yet, James.
I mean, the dominoes are starting to fall because
I know the domino fell this week in a very small news announcement. Martin Truex Jr. going to JGR next season officially to replace Daniel Suarez. Big shocker. Cole Pearn is going as well.
Yeah.
Basically, big news if we didn't already know it was going to happen. I mean, the writing was on the wall. There were people talking about how Cole Pearn was talking with I think he was talking with the JGR guys or something like that this week. There was a bunch of stuff going on in the garage that it was pretty obvious this was coming. We already knew for weeks. So
yeah, I had a tweet that I had sent earlier this week because I just had to comment on it because JGR, what a move by them. So they go to Furniture Row and they say, "You guys really kicked our butts. You kicked our butts in 2016 and 17, and you know what? We're gonna up the price. We're gonna up the price big. So if you want to kick our butts, you're gonna have to pay. You're basically gonna have to go bankrupt."
right.
So then they, basically, Furniture Row can't afford it, and Joe Gibbs basically prices them out of the business.
Mm-hmm.
And then they take all their stuff.
Right.
And and now they're gonna go and kick everybody else's butt with their stuff.
Right.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
It's so shrewd.
I know.
How come nobody's talking about that?
It's business, man.
I know.
That's the business.
It's so shrewd, though.
Yeah, it's almost as bad as bringing your own spoiler to the track.
Right.
Except it's all within the rules.
I know.
Every bit of it's legal.
It's so shrewd. And Daniel Suarez is out on his butt.
Yeah.
Well, he won't be for long, but,
No, you think he's going to be driving a Ford next year?
I think he's going to be driving a Ford.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You think Cole Custer wins the championship in the Xfinity Series and that changes things at all?
I mean, that could. Their resume would basically be the same at that point.
Or do you think Cole Custer is a Clint Boyer replacement when Boyer retires? Or gets the boot?
I don't know. Clint Boyer, he's such a question mark for me. I don't even know what to do with him anymore.
Yeah.
Just crazy. I did see Daniel Suarez was really mad at Jeff Gluck this week.
Was he?
Yeah, on Twitter. He voiced his opinion about it.
What about?
Gluck said, hold on, I'm going to try to find this really quick. Basically, Gluck was trying to defend Suarez.
Okay.
And said he was thrown into the Cup Series a little early because of the Carl Edwards thing. And then Suarez fired back like, I'm not. You haven't seen. He basically said, you haven't seen my best yet,
Huh.
and was all ticked off. And
Isn't
then
that what Jeff was saying though? Kinda.
yeah, pretty much. Yeah, and that's
I
what
mean,
Jeff
maybe
said.
it didn't translate well.
No, I don't know. Maybe yeah, well, that's true. Maybe it didn't. So yeah, Suarez was all sorts of ticked off on it. It was a good one. It's a good little Twitter exchange. If you go to Jeff Gluck's Twitter, it'll be on there.
Cool. I'll check that out. Yeah, I did not see that.
A little back and forth.
One more silly season thing that popped up. We don't talk a whole lot about the Xfinity Series, but popped up right before we started recording tonight. Austin Cindric announced full time in the Penske number 22 car in the Xfinity Series in 2019. So good for Cindric.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good ride.
Yeah.
That 22.
Oh,
cars,
that's a really good ride in the Xfinity Series.
Yeah, that's the 22 cars won some owners championship. So if he's going full time, because that car's usually a shared ride.
Yeah, it almost always is. I believe it's been for several years.
Yeah, Blaney ran it full time, I think, at one time.
Yeah, I think that's the last time it ran full time.
Usually that's a piece together deal. So yeah, that's gonna be a good seat for him.
Yeah,
he could contend for a championship easily.
Definitely.
In that car.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a contender for sure next year.
Yeah, next year, absolutely.
Cindric's a good guy, a good driver. You know, he's got the ability to do it. So good for him to get a ride.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. Any news I missed, James?
No, I think we covered all the bad.
Right?
Yeah.
All right. So we go to ISM Raceway this weekend. It is the Can-Am 500. Fortunately, not 500 miles. This one's a 500-kilometer race at Phoenix. And we got a little bit of a reconfiguration going on there. We switched things up. We've got the start-finish line just outside of Turn 2, basically, from where it used to be. And I'll tell you what, I retweeted a couple tweets today, some pictures of the track. And first of all, ISM Raceway has now the absolute coolest flag stand in NASCAR. Did you get a chance to see it, James?
Looks like a middle finger to me.
Well, it does look like a middle finger, but it's also a cactus, and the cactus lights up in red, yellow, or green, depending on what flag is out. So for the night race, Friday night for the Truck Series, it's going to be pretty awesome. Not going to be quite as impressive for the other two races in the daytime, but still pretty cool. I like that. I really like it. And the stuff they've done in the garage is awesome. The fact that, you know, there's Daytona kind of pioneered the get the fans in the garage thing with their little window in the garage where you can see in. Phoenix, you can walk right along the nose of the garage, and there's a railing that's like waist high, and that's it. You're right there in the garage. That is awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool.
I mean, as somebody who's spent some time in the garage, it's not as exciting as you think it is, but for the fans to have an opportunity to get that close, and you know, when the biggest thing to me is that when the garage is hot, you can't get that close ever. You know, the hot times start about a half hour before the cars go on track, and that's when all the drivers are out. You don't see the drivers when the garage is cold, when more fans can get in there. And this gives you an opportunity to get right in the garage when the garage is hot and get close to the drivers and close to the teams when they're actually working. It's awesome. It's a really cool deal. Absolutely.
Yeah, I just think any way, you know, we used to be so sealed off for such a long time, and these tracks opening up these garages and access is just awesome.
It's the best way to do it. I mean, I don't want to be the guy who's, you know, it's my second year getting a chance to go in the garage, and I'm going to be snobby and say, what are all these people out here for? They're in my way when I'm trying to work. But there's a lot of people in the garage, and they do get in the way quite a bit. And to be able to give them an opportunity to get in this close and completely be out of the way, they're not going to interfere at all where they're at. Absolutely awesome. Good deal for everybody. Yeah, and NASCAR is not just the race. It's the weekend, it's the day, it's a full event. And this just adds to the fans who, you know, want to get the most out of their ticket. I will honestly say that too. Like, I know a lot of my friends, and I know a ton of people that go down to like MIS, and they go there, they leave Sunday morning, they go to the race, they leave after the race, and they go home. If you haven't had the opportunity to do a weekend at NASCAR, do it. It is a completely different experience to go do that than it is just to go for race day. My family used to go down the Monday before and stay across the street from MIS, and we didn't miss a bit of on-track action for several years. So it's really cool to do that and get right down close and see all the practice and qualifying and all that stuff that goes on. And there's a lot of stuff that goes on in the midway and things like that. And if you can get yourself a pit pass, or better yet, a garage pass, or something like this fan zone pass for Phoenix, do it, man. It's worth it.
Absolutely. What do you think about this reconfiguration? Do you think it's going to affect anything this week?
You know what it's going to affect? The restarts.
Yep, that's where I was.
We're going to go
yep.
like 10 wide in turn 1.
Yeah, the restarts are going to be crazy.
The start finish line is at the when they first designed this, I'm like, why didn't they put the start finish line a little bit further? Like, get it more close to the dog leg. But where it is perfect because it gives them time to get to that line and then have time because they can't leave their spot in the line. But once they cross that line, there's plenty of time to fan out before they go into that first turn.
Yeah, you got to think of it kind of backwards. If you look at the start-finish line, you always think about how is it going to finish.
Yeah.
I think at this track, you got to think about it. How is it going to start? How are the restarts going to happen?
I think it's going to finish pretty wild too, though, because
absolutely.
That
I agree with
finish
that
line is coming out of. I mean, Phoenix was always good because that flat turn coming out of turn 4 was pretty cool. You could usually get into somebody, get side by side coming off the turn, and race them down the straightaway. But there's no racing down the straightaway here. You're coming out of the turn. So you don't, if you're side by side in the turn, you're going to be side by side at the line.
Exactly.
So I think it's going to play out really interesting in both directions. From a fan standpoint, I like the fact that they've got the fans in the shade. That's cool. But I think it's a terrible design for the fans because you went from being where the backstretch of the track was half the distance that it is now because it's so far from the front stretch, as I do air quotes again, to the back stretch now, which is the old turn 3 and 4. It's so far back there. I mean, for us, it's probably like the front stretch to the back stretch at like Michigan or Daytona or something. So it's not that bad. It's not unusual. But for the fans at Phoenix who've been at a little over a mile track, that now it's that far away from them, I think that kind of stinks. And it's a flat turn. You're not going to be able to see those guys back there very well. Yeah,
it's going to be interesting. I don't know about the grandstands wrapping like they are.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird. But
it's really weird because instead of putting them on the long side of the egg, they put them on the short side of the egg, and it just seems like the worst possible position for grandstands, period. But
they kind of feel like they made a soccer stadium out of this thing.
Yeah.
Rather than making like an NFL size bowl, you know, if you're making a comparison, it's just a smaller like facility.
Well, it's kind of weird
I think
too.
It's kind of cool.
It looks like pit road almost starts at the same spot as it used to, but it wraps all the way around the turn now. And then you've got the big, the tri-oval in the front stretch kind of, but it's all blocked by walls. So you can't, there's no grass down there or anything. It's a weird design. It's different. I mean, Phoenix has always been a weird track. Back in the day when there was the break in the backstretch wall that stuck out for the old road course. I mean, it's always been a weird track. So might as well be weird again, right?
Right, absolutely.
We don't want normal. We want weird stuff. That's what makes it interesting.
we like the Rovals of the world. Yeah.
And I think it made a big difference when they flipped the front stretch and back stretch at Darlington back in the day. It made a huge difference at Atlanta, but that's of course because they reconfigured the track too. It's going to change the race. This is not going to be the same Phoenix. It might drive the same, but the way you run this race is going to be different as a result.
Yep. It's going to change. Yeah, restarts are going to be the biggest factor, like you said.
Yep.
And from there, it could get pretty wild.
We're going to pile some cars up in turn 1, I think, this weekend. Especially in the 2 preliminary races. They'll probably figure it out by the Cup race, but we're going to wreck some trucks going into turn 1 tomorrow night.
Yep, absolutely we are.
So James, you get the first pick this week. It's all you, man. I think I know where you're going, but it's all you.
Oh, I don't think I'm going to pick it. I don't think I can pick him.
You're not going to go that route, huh?
I don't know.
No vindication for James?
No, I think I'm going to try to take Chase Elliott here.
Dang it, you're picking my guy.
I'm taking him.
I should have picked first this week because I let you pick first last week, even though it wasn't your turn. But
I know. Yeah, no, we're all backwards.
It's all right. It's all you.
Yep.
So you're going Chase, huh?
Yeah, I'm going Chase.
I think that's a great pick. That was definitely my pick. I wasn't even thinking about it. I was going to go that direction. And I'm not going to take Harvick because I just don't want to take Harvick.
We're leaking a little confidence in Harvick. That's okay. That's okay. He can go out there and prove us wrong.
Oh, who do I want to take then? If I don't take Harvick, like
the
nobody
best
else.
Drivers. Well, it's Kevin Harvick and everybody else. But the best of the playoff drivers, Kyle Busch is up there with Harvick. He only has 1 career win, but he has 18 top 10s. So he's pretty good there. Average finish 11.8.
All right, I'm going non-playoff. And I'm going to say Denny Hamlin was doing well last year until he got into it with Chase Elliott. I'm going to Denny Hamlin. Denny Hamlin redeems himself, gets himself his win this year, and continues the streak.
Yes, Denny Hamlin, very good there. I like that pick.
There you go. All right, dark horse. I get the first dark horse pick. Who do I want to go here? I don't freaking know. Is there even worth picking a dark horse anymore? These dark horses are dumb.
Dark horses never do anything for us.
I'm going to go the same direction you went last week, and I'm going to go William Byron.
I like that.
So.
He had actually, he had a little bit of a rough go at Texas, but he rallied.
Well, Byron, I think he put on Instagram something about him winning here in the Xfinity car last year, I believe.
Yeah,
he won to transfer. So I'm gonna go William Byron. He's got some experience here and can run well in the other series. And I mean, he's only run one race in the Cup Series, but he's up there in the average finish department. So I'm going him.
Does this count if I take Ryan Newman?
Yeah, you can take Newman. That's
he's
a good
little
pick
bit
too.
He's a recent winner there, but he hasn't done anything.
He's
this
going
year.
to Roush, so he's basically a dark horse pick.
Yeah, I'm gonna take the lame duck, Ryan Newman.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good one. It's not bad.
Or Matt Kenseth could have been a good one too.
Matt Kenseth would be a good one. I thought about that too.
We didn't eulogize Trevor Bayne's NASCAR Cup career.
That's all right.
You're forever tied to that guy because you were at the Daytona 500.
I was there. I was the race that made Trevor Bayne.
You're forever tied to Trevor Bayne's career.
So that wasn't. Did I mention that last week that there was some talk on Sirius? And I don't remember who said it, but somebody was talking about Trevor Bayne being done in NASCAR, and whoever the host was, said, "Wait for things to come. Trevor Bayne might not be done yet."
I have a feeling he's buddying up to Dale Earnhardt Jr.
Think so? Think he'll run in one of the?
I think he'll be a JRM. Yeah.
Interesting. I would not be surprised. I don't think Bayne is too big on himself to not go back to the Xfinity Series.
He said as much. He said he'll go down. He was talking though, like he said he wasn't sure this week. He's like, kind of feels weird knowing that this could be my last race as a NASCAR driver.
Yeah, Xfinity though, they choose Xfinity drivers so late. Like, we won't know until a couple weeks before
he's not
Daytona.
done driving.
No,
he's too young. He's too young to be done driving.
And the kid's got some ability. He does. He didn't.
Not that bad of a driver.
No.
He's been stuck at Roush. The fact that Ricky Stenhouse Jr. has 2 wins for Roush is one of the most phenomenal things that has happened.
That really shows you how good of a driver Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is, because nobody has any business running in those Roush cars right now. And Bayne's been stuck at Roush all this time. And when he did run in the Cup Series, he was running for Wood Brothers, but that was a Roush car then too, for the most part. So he hasn't. It's not like when Blaney was over there and they were running Penske equipment. So
right.
Bayne's a good driver, and you stick him in a good Xfinity car, stick him in a junior motorsports car. I think he'll do really well there. I think he'd win some races.
Don't put Bayne's career in a coffin just yet.
No.
I mean, not yet. Not yet. Let's see. He's got another chapter to write. Let's see what happens.
There are enough Xfinity Series and Truck Series rides. He's got to find his way into something. Somebody's got to bet on him. I can't imagine the price is that high for Bayne. Somebody's got to be able to afford to stick him in their car and see how he does.
Yeah, and he's better than so many young drivers out there.
Yeah.
I mean, still.
Shoot. If he doesn't jump in the Xfinity Series, have Kyle Busch throw him in one of his trucks. Can you imagine Trevor Bayne in a truck, a Kyle Busch Motorsports truck?
Yeah.
He'd kill in that thing.
Yep.
Yeah, he'd dominate. He'd do well. So.
Yeah, he's not done yet.
Nope.
He's not done yet. We might see him again.
Yeah.
I know that was his last Cup race for now, but he's not done.
Speaking of C drivers again, who'd we see this weekend again, James?
Who came back this weekend?
Carl Edwards was at the track this weekend in Texas.
Know. He's a little bit better than a C driver.
Yeah. No, but I'm saying he came back. He's poking his nose around and basically says that the reason he doesn't come around and why he doesn't get involved is because if he does, he'll be back into it. And he did not rule out the possibility of returning down the road. He said basically if he does return, he's going to come in full force. And it sounded like he's really interested in a part-time thing. So I'd love to see Carl back at the track.
Yeah, that was he literally has disappeared.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Nobody knows what he's up to.
He said he sailed across the Atlantic twice.
Yeah, he's racing his bike.
Yeah, he got himself in a mountain bike race. He said he's.
Can you imagine just having time, just time, just any time.
Yeah.
He has all the time.
I admire the way he did it more than anything. Just no announcement, no
tour.
no tour, no, just complete surprise out of nowhere at your prime. He was so close to being a champion.
He was at the apex. He was the champion for 97% of the final race.
Yeah.
Incredible.
What a way to go out. James, you got any shout outs this week?
It's my dog Walter's 4th birthday.
Nice.
Today.
Nice.
And he celebrated with a cheeseburger from McDonald's.
There you go.
And now he's passed out. He's sitting behind me right now.
Walter's got a good birthday month. My birthday's Sunday.
Oh, there you go.
So there we
A
go.
little NASCAR racing.
Yeah, a couple days away from Walt. So
nice.
Happy
birthday.
Thanks.
Podcast official.
Yeah, I thought for sure you'd shout out Gluck. I saw you retweet him, or at least you retweeted Aaron. Gluck did his How I Got Here about himself this week on his podcast.
Yeah, I did. I got a like from old Jeff Gluck and former host of the podcast,
nice.
Aaron Beard.
Nice. I've not got a chance to listen to the podcast yet. I have not popped into Gluck's in a little bit, so I'll have to check that one out because I'm sure it's pretty good.
I'm really glad he did. He did his How I Got Here on himself.
Yes, that's great.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I really
am glad that he did that.
I was afraid he wouldn't do it because Gluck.
He said he wasn't going to do it. Yeah,
he's too modest. I didn't think he'd want to do a podcast about himself. So
I think every great podcast host, or maybe not great, but I've heard a lot of how I got here is from podcast hosts before, like something that they do, and I'm glad he's doing it. I'd love to hear his story.
I mean, I've heard a little bit of his story because I talked to him at Daytona at the 500.
He has an interesting story.
Yeah. So I've heard a little bit of it. I'm sure it's in way more detail in the podcast because I talked to him for 5 minutes at Daytona. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure everybody else is interested. Obviously, his How I Got Here is do well. People love him. I love him. But, for someone like me who is trying to get into the sport too, it's even more interesting to me for something like that because, it's just advice on how to do it, even though things have changed so much now. It's so different how you get in there. And Gluck hasn't been in it that long, but it's
he wrote for
a lot.
NASCAR. I know he wrote for NASCAR Scene. I still have to listen to the podcast, but I'm stoked to do it.
Yeah.
He wrote for the magazine way back when. So yeah, he's got an interesting story. I'm actually more excited to hear this one than I have for any of his other ones all year. I just want to hear his story.
I remember the old NASCAR Scene. It was a big newspaper magazine basically, and it came, I think it was weekly at the time. That thing was awesome. Of course, when I got it, it was Winston Cup Scene.
Yeah.
And then I remember
was part of it too for a while back then.
I think they were part of it after I was no longer getting it. And then Winston Cup Illustrated I used to get all the time too, which became NASCAR Illustrated. The first couple years that Winston Cup Illustrated was available, they if you were a subscriber, they would send you a box to put them in at the end of the season so you could have them all together. And I'm sure they're still at my parents' house somewhere. I would hope that they didn't get thrown away. Those things were high gloss. The year that Rusty Wallace flipped at Daytona and Talladega, they've got images that are just amazing of the wrecks in high gloss pages.
Yeah, you're gonna have to go. You're gonna have to go find those.
I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna have to
tweet out some photos.
I know there's some Winston Cup scenes still in my parents' garage. There's no way my stepdad got rid of those. They're probably a fire hazard somewhere in there. But the NASCAR Illustrated, I hope are around somewhere. I have to check them out.
Yeah, go find them.
Yeah.
Do it.
Actually, next time I go there, I need to take some pictures so I can tweet them out anyway because we've got so much. He's got so much NASCAR memorabilia. He's got when Dale Earnhardt ran the silver car at the Winston, there were several versions of the diecast that they made because obviously that was the whole point of the thing was to make diecasts. But they made a bank and there were two versions of the bank. There was one with clear windows where you could see the inside of the car, and there was one with solid windows, and the solid windows is worth more. And he's got one of the solid window cars. That's pretty awesome. He's got the Dale Earnhardt Legacy car in let's see, there's 164 and then I think 1/18th was the bigger ones, and this is like bigger than the 1/18th scale. It's huge.
Oh, you gotta do a picture of that.
And this thing is absolutely amazing. The roof flaps, they have the wire that hangs down inside to keep them from flipping up too far. The detail in this thing is amazing. The engine is super detailed. The window net is like actual cloth. I mean, it is really neat. And then we've got tons of Davey Allison and Alan Quickie stuff, just all kinds of memorabilia in there. And half of it's mine, but I don't have any place to put it here, so I leave it there. And And more than likely, he bought it all anyway. So
Yeah.
But there's some really cool stuff out there. There's probably worth quite a bit of money in there, and it's in a pretty decent display case. But I'm sure it's covered in dust now. But it's pretty cool. So I'll have to get some pictures next time I'm over there.
You have homework.
There you go. I don't have any shout outs. James took mine, even though I gave it to him with Gluck. So I did want to say something though. I did say I like to rip on Nick Bromberg, but I retweeted Nick this week because he pointed out with the whole Harvick thing that it's a minor miracle that it took this far into the playoffs for the playoffs to be determined by a penalty. And he's right. I mean, I can hate on Nick all day, but he's not wrong. It's amazing that it took this long for something to happen.
This penalty is right in Bromberg's wheelhouse.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's all about it.
Oh, I could see he's probably all giddy, clapping his hands, all excited because he gets to bash NASCAR a little bit. So good for Nick.
Yeah, you can't blame him either. So
no, you have every right to blame to do some bashing on that one for sure.
Yep.
All right, James. If people want to talk to you during the week, where can they find you?
At James Cush on Twitter.
You can find me at TSuperspeedway on Twitter. You can find the podcast on Facebook at facebook.com/TheSuperspeedway. Our website is thesuperspeedway.com. You can find the show notes on there, links to a bunch of the articles we discussed, photos from this past season, races that we were at, and as far as some coverage as well, and whatever else we throw up there. It's not been a whole lot right now, but definitely check it out. You can find the podcast on iTunes, Google Play, and SoundCloud. And if you like what you hear, you want to become a part of the show, and you want us to do more, visit us at patreon.com/thesuperspeedway and become a patron. You can become a part of the show. We bring you on as a guest, depending on what tier you go with, and all kinds of cool stuff. So check that out. We'd appreciate the support. And I think that's it, James. We get to go racing one more time this weekend at Phoenix. We got 2 weeks left. And
I know, we're almost done.
It's crazy.
Next week, we're previewing the championship.
Next week, we are previewing the championship, and probably a little bit early next week, too, it sounds like. So we'll have the podcast to you a little early next week instead of late like we've been the last two. So
that's all right. Yes.
Life gets in the way, man. Actually, hungry stomach and Pizza Hut got in the way last night for me. So.
Yeah, well, I got a hungry stomach right now.
There you go. Yeah, me too. I'm going to go eat as soon as we're done here, too. So, all right, James, we will talk next week. We will talk about Phoenix, and we will preview the Final Four, the championship at Homestead, Miami. Until then, everybody, let's go racing. And where's the outro? Hey, there it is.